Hi, in today's episode, we have Archish, the founder of Zishta. His passion for travel and hiking got him hooked to the idea of reviving traditions and create sustainable living for a better environment and a better world for the future generations. He, along with like-minded individuals, founded Zishta. We will hear from him about the others. He loves to work with different artisan communities to catalog and preserve the traditional knowledge. He's passionate to travel to the rural areas, document the details of the artisans and their work. His vision is to make Zishta the knowledge repository of all traditional knowledge that resides with the different communities and make it available for everyone. So welcome Archish on today's episode.
Thank you, Mohua, for having me here.
Thank you. So let's just start and tell me about how you left your corporate world and you kind of got down to getting into reviving traditions. What was that moment of epiphany for you?
Sure, I think that's like like a fairy tale moment for everyone, likes the idea of someone leaving the corporate world and plunge themselves into something unique and different.
That they're passionate about.
Yeah, they're passionate about, yes. I think mine started a long time back, like that you just mentioned. For me, hiking, trekking, being in nature has been an integral part of my life. And for almost 10, 12 years now, I've been like regularly hiking, cycling across. So that kind of, we spend a lot of time alone when we do it. And a lot of time when you're alone in the mountains, you get a lot of time to introspect and think about yourself, think about what you're doing. And slowly that journey starts, which is more, I would say, a little spiritual by nature, but it's more about self-awareness when you're in the mountains. And that's where, otherwise it was like, it's just a straight-jacket guy. I finished school, went into engineering, then did MBA, and then I went into corporate
And are your parents disappointed that you left all of that to start this?
No, my parents have always been extremely supportive. And I think more than my parents, I think when I decided to start this, I think the most supportive person was my wife. And she was the one who actually nudged me when I said I'm just not, seeing anything working in the corporate. Well, I was just disillusioned in the sense there is 80% of the time I was spending trying to, manage internal politics of the organizations. When you work for large corporates, that's what happens.
Absolutely,
I mean, 80% of your time just goes in and 20%
in just people management.
Yeah, and people management, more than people management, is just politics management. What's happening around the organization? How do you play your cards? How do you want to grow? So it was just becoming, there was nothing real about what I was doing. It was the same thing again and again, just trying to, like, old wine, new bottle kind of stuff. And somewhere I was just getting disillusioned with this whole space. And I thought, okay, I was having this brainstorming session with my wife and I said, there's something that I'm not very comfortable taking it forward and I want to do something by myself. And she said, okay, yeah, just quit your job and you will figure it out. So I think that was the first motivation. And then when I told my parents, they were all like, yeah, do something, as long as you're happy, was always their approach. So
very few parents say that to a boy who's done their engineering, because I think India is like the careers that people really recognize as being a doctor, being an engineer. And, as a creative person, I know how difficult it is to even ask to be paid.
Yeah, so it's quite fortunate, like, to have parents like that.
You're very lucky.
Yes. So, so that's how I initially started to say, okay, let me first quit. And then me and we are actually now 3 partners, but Meera was my ex-boss. She was my boss when I was working in the corporate world, but then she shifted to another company, but we were still in touch and we were pretty close from the time she was my boss. So one day I just landed up in our place and we were sitting and we were like, both of us were equally disillusioned, and there was something that we wanted to do. And then we, took a chart and we still have it in she still has it in her house. We took a chart paper and we were trying to jot down different ideas that we want to pursue. And, it had different things, like some marketing consultancy, because both of us have had, she has about 20 years of corporate experience in marketing and strategy, mine about a decade in marketing and strategy again. So we were thinking about different ideas, but then there was something that both of us were very something that triggered was in terms of looking at traditions, and then we started delving more in terms of having the conversation. And Varishta, who's joined in, who's the third partner, actually she's my cousin sister. So, and she was just passing out of college in 2016. And once when I was at home, I just visited my uncle and I was speaking to her, and she said, I know I'm finishing college now, but I don't want to go join work or someplace. I want to start something by myself. So then I was just telling her that I'm having this idea. I want to start something like this, focused around traditions and, reviving back some traditional craft. And so she was like, wow, I want to join in. So initially we thought, okay, we'll be two partners, me and Meera. But then she says, no, I want to be a partner in this. And so we put in this thing and formed a partnership and started the venture. But still then there was no idea crystallized. We were just having like up in the air something we will do about traditions. And so then me and Varishta decided that we will go on a road trip. So we started and we said, okay, what's the convenient, more comfortable place for us is Tamil Nadu, because both of us are Tamilians and we are from that place. So, and I know the length and breadth of Tamil Nadu and I've traveled much. So I was like, okay, let's go, let's go explore Tamil Nadu and see. Let's go with an open book and see what we get. So we started traveling, and then we went all across Tamil Nadu. We just traveled to different cities, and even Pondicherry, Madurai, Tirunelveli, Nagarkoil. So we went all the way from Chennai till the tip, Kanyakumari, and then we came back. But in the trip, we had, we had a pit stop at my grandmother's place. She stays near Trichy, and she's 90 now. I mean, she's 85, but she stays all by herself.
Wow.
And, and she's pretty self-reliant. She's at 85. She cooks for everyone who comes home and feeds everyone who comes home. And it's all by herself. So we were just sitting there for, we said, okay, we'll stop over for one night and, spend some time with our grandmother, and then we will further proceed. And we were just observing her and what she was doing. And then we were just trying to pick her brains on traditional knowledge and stuff. And she's like, I have forgotten most of this. But, when you ask specific related question, hey, what are you using this for? Why are you doing this? What would you do if someone, we were just trying to document something around home remedies. So we were just trying to get as much information as possible from her. And once we started talking, and then we realized there's so much of knowledge that I don't think my mother or my father has taken it from her, or it's going to get passed on to us.
It's really sad because it's just slowly dying, and we need believers like you.
Yeah. So that was the triggering point. And we said, okay, why not we look at documenting this knowledge first? And the knowledge started actually with the kitchen, because most of the time our grandparents that's their space within the entire home.
Absolutely.
Where they're completely themselves.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
So that's where we spent. And then we understood so much in terms of what she uses, what she does, how she cooks. And when you see someone at 85 who's that self-reliant, and you're just projecting your own life and saying how you would be when you're even 60, not even look at 85, whether you're going to be an independent human being or a dependent on someone. So that became that was the triggering point for both me and Varishta in terms of let's look at documenting a lot of this knowledge. So the knowledge started with the kitchen. So we documented a lot of information from her, and then we went in search of these artisans who were making these products.
And what were those products?
So we started with looking for something called the tin vessel, which was So we were looking for something called the tin vessel. So which my grandmother used to make rasam in that. So that's like a very good South Indian delicacy, especially Tamil delicacy. For rasam is an integral part of our cuisine, right? So it was just like, what is this? And I've observed it being used earlier, but this was the first time I was actually watching it being made, and the taste and everything was like so different. And so then that was one. And then there was another thing, a soapstone vessel. It's called a culture tea in Tamil. So balpat kallu in Kannada. So we were going. So she was using a lot of this cast iron. She had like a variety of different cookware at home, and she had something in bronze which she was using, something in brass, and then we were like, how is she? And some of them are really heavy, and she still uses it. So I was like, okay, this is something that's very interesting. So we documented a lot of this information, and we asked her, where did you buy it? What did you do? How do you use it? And all this information. And then she said, oh, these things you go to get here, you will go get here. So she then suddenly all the memories kind of came back to her, and she shared it with us. So that was the starting point. Then we said, okay, let's go in search of these artisans. So we went to Kumbakonam, we went to Madurai, we went to Tirunelveli in search of these different clusters who are there. But apart from that, when we went to Nagarkoil, there is this department of handicrafts that they have a commissioner's office over there. And we just walked into that office and they said, hey, we want to work with these traditional artisans. So he just gave us a book which had all the contacts of the different artisans that they have documented in and around southern part of Tamil Nadu.
Wow.
So he said that you just take a photocopy of it, and with phone numbers, with which craft that they do, and also in terms of whether they are, so the Department of Handicrafts does a lot of exhibition, marketing and sales for these artisans. And they also do some awards. So like the President Awards for some of the finest craftsmen and stuff. So he gave us the entire list, and he was just, go explore. You guys want to start something by helping them, we'll be more than happy to support you. So he just gave us the book, and we took photocopies. It was like almost 100-page book, which we still have.
I get the goosebumps when you say this to me, because it is so amazing that you just need to go a few kilometers in India and you'll find a different craft.
Yeah.
You need to go a little more ahead and you'll find another change, in there.
Yeah.
Because I am from Bengal, and it is unbelievable the amount of art and craft that's also there.
Yeah.
And it's all across India, know, and it's so amazing that somebody is actually documenting this and, doing this.
Yeah. So that gave us another lot of information that we could explore. So he said, why don't you just go to different parts? You can, from Nagarkoil, you can go to Chennai. They'll have a department for the northern part. So each state has a Department of Handicrafts
Absolutely,
section.
yes.
And you can go have a discussion with them. Though that was the starting point. We got that initial impetus from them with information, and that kind of continued. And we started blogging. So that was my first start when, in terms of blogging, where we documented this information in our Facebook page. We started sharing it with people, what all we explored and found. And people started asking, hey, where do you get these products? These are, I've seen it being used in my grandmother's home. It's so lovely. You guys you're exploring this. Why don't you find out where they sell or how to buy it? Can you please start, figuring that out for us? So then we decided, a lot of people are asking where to get it. So we said, okay, why not we make that the business part of it? And so that there is a revenue generation that sustains our effort in documenting the traditional knowledge. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to be, knowledge by per se is no one is going to pay for it. It's not something that we can monetize, but the products could be monetized. So that was the aha moment for all of us, and saying, hey, why not we look at, because a lot of people were asking us, I want these products, can you please get it? So
I've already done my tick mark after seeing the whole website.
Yeah. So we said, okay, why not we were traveling in a car. We actually loaded a lot of stuff in our car while coming back. For us as well, and for others who said, we want this, why don't you buy it and come? So that became the starting point. And then we said, okay, why not we test this aspect of the, we actually took part in an event on 14th of August, 2016, is when we commercially started operations by taking part in an event. And we just got about a few of these that, that iron products that we had gone and visited. We took that. Then we got some, the culture tea that we saw. We took that. We came back, and then the tin vessel. So we had just 3 products actually with us. That's it. We had some 30, 40 units of each. And it was a 3-day event. By the end of day 1, we were sold out. And we were like, whoa. So okay, everyone who walked into a store space was like that nostalgia, the connect, and it was not about them us selling anything. It was just about people, just seeing the products and associating it with their grandmothers or with their mothers, and that was enough for them to just pick up the product. So there was nothing we did in terms of trying to sell a product, and it was just there, and people were just coming and approaching us, and also the kind of love that they shared with us in terms of, oh, you guys are doing such an amazing job, in bringing these
It's
things
so
back.
encouraging.
It was quite encouraging,
Yes.
and I think that kind of was the proof of concept for us that, okay, there is something here that people are interested in. And till then we were like, we didn't know like whether it will work or not as a business. It was not something that we were very sure about. I think once we had that personal interaction with a lot of buyers, that gave us the confidence that this is something there is a need among people, and also the need is compounded by the fact of the knowledge that has been missing in how to use these products. So both together kind of became our starting point, and we said, okay, my primary job and as partners, Meera, myself, and Varishtas, our role has always been in terms of documenting as much of this knowledge part of it as possible, and directly connecting with the artisans. So we don't have any of our employees interacting with artisans. It is directly managed by us because we wanted to have that personal relationship with them. Even if it grows, our idea is to have that personal connect with all the artisans. Maybe someone else will follow up and getting the products, but that's fine. But we wanted to have that personally with them because that's.
And has it been easy to get the work? Yes.
It has not been. It has not been easy.
I believe so, because, it's something that I have been toying so much with the whole idea about textiles, out of Bengal.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout my travel, as a young girl, like you said about nostalgia, my parents used to take me to this little place called Fulia in West Bengal in 24 Parganas. It's Nadia district, sorry. And it's a weaver's colony. And my uncle had a home there, my grand uncle, my mother's uncle. And I've spoken to people. It is extremely difficult, apparently, to just manage the deadlines and manage their entire understanding about how it really works as far as delivery goes and as far as timing goes. So a lot of people get very daunted. We do have the good intention, but it can get difficult. So how do you see bridging that?
That's the toughest part, actually.
Yes.
With the artisans, because they work at their own pace, and they are not encumbered by the whole deadline aspect of life.
Yes.
It's a very corporate thing. And I think for them, it's like if you push them too much, it's be like, sir, this is all we can do. This is the time you will get. So it's never easy. So that's something that if you go to my website, you will find a lot of the products are still out of stock. It'll be out of stock for weeks. Because you just can't. And the thing is, that's the way we manage is like, you have to wait for the products to come. So we basically, just before the product comes is when we actually inform the customers that, hey, we're getting the product back. So place the order now. And each batch that we get is because all of them we focus on are these traditionally made crafts. So they're not like, it's very easy. Let's say we have a cast iron cookware range in our portfolio. Very easy to go to a manufacturer, like a proper industrial foundry located either in Coimbatore or, or in outside Bangalore as well. So there are lots of like people who do completely, they have a like proper manufacturing setup that you can make in good volumes at lower prices, and you can also get, and even from a usability perspective, it's a lot more user friendly than the handmade ones, and being upfront about it. But we didn't want to do it. We wanted to stick to these old traditional, these guys who've been making it for last 4-5 generations. That's their family. That's their life.
It's the courage, it is the conviction to continue is what is my, I am in awe of them, of artisans, because you have to be so into your craft that has been passed on. And I think people like us who live in cities, we don't even understand from where that strength comes.
Yeah, strength, but it's actually it was quite dicey a few years back. So when we started and when we did the road trip, when we were meeting a lot of artisans and speaking to them, the problem with these artisans were facing. So there are two types. So one, the craftsmen who make beautiful decorative items. Okay, and those kind of crafts have continued to grow with a lot of support, with let's say a Craft Council of India supporting them with various let's say, take example, textiles. Someone like a Fab India has done a fabulous job of connecting with these artisans and bringing them all together. So there has been, especially in decorative spaces and in something that was of aesthetic nature, has taken a lot of precedence in the last 15-20 years. And crafts were of very high utility factor. Take, for example, like a clay pot. A potter who makes a good clay pot is something that we don't actually invest in an artisan like that. So what has happened in a lot of these areas where these traditional crafts that were just dependent on the local community for purchase, and with the advent of non-stick or stainless steel or aluminium, which has become much cheaper than these products, where people, even the villages, have moved away from using these products, the crafts have been dying steadily. And because there is no economic benefit, a lot of them, when we spoke, was like, we are the last generation. We are making it. You can buy from me as long as you want. The next generation is not getting into this craft because they don't see the money. And they don't see the benefit of working in this craft, which is, to a great extent, most of them are very, very difficult. When, we were just sitting in a foundry, in a small, they call it a pattarai in Tamil, where, they're sitting and beating the iron for the cookware. We were just there to take a few photographs. That's it. It would have been not more than a half an hour, 45 minutes job, setting up the lighting and taking some photographs. We couldn't survive in that place for more than 10 minutes. It was that hot. It was almost reaching 50 degrees in that space because they are heating, the charcoal furnace is burning on one side. They have to continuously heat the iron and beat it. So that entire environment, and it's an open environment, mind you, it's just a shed. And every side is open, but still, we couldn't stand there for more than 10 minutes. And those guys work for 3 to 4 hours. And that's hard work. And it's so hard. Like, people are unwilling to work. Even if you say, like, we were there when we were working at some, early challenges, we were saying, okay, we will fund labor cost. We will do this. We will take up the cost of labor so the artisans don't feel the pinch of adding more people. People were unwilling to come to work because they said, boss, I will go get a security job. Maybe they'll pay me lesser, but I don't have to work this hard. I don't have to toil for 4 or 5 hours in a day in 50 degrees temperature. And it is quite difficult. So then we said, okay, why not we help them in setting up better infrastructure over there so that the temperatures don't rise so much. But whatever said and done, even if how much ever we do, it is a tough environment to work in. But of late, since the pandemic started in 2020, I think a lot of things have changed. One, I think people spending a lot of time at home has changed that. And
there's a new awakening. I was just talking to my friend yesterday, and I think the whole sense of acceptance of one another and awakening of going back to what you learned. And I think that, a lot of people have suffered and people have had deaths, but it has also been a great time for people to go back to their roots.
And great time for them to go back to the roots, as well as, spending the time as a family, And that has resulted in them cooking as a family.
Yes.
And that has
because the
resulted in
maids
them,
were all off.
yeah.
For most
So and
homes
suddenly,
in cities.
yeah, and suddenly you are all like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
and then there is a greater awareness of the of how non-stick is not good for health. That is not good for health. There's so much of, actually, there's a lot of noise, and there is a greater awareness about among people about how you should go for very natural products. So they're looking at cast iron has become less suddenly picked up. Like so many people are like cast iron, cast iron, cast iron. And like without knowing much about cast iron, to be very frank, and what it does and what you can use it for. So there's this sudden realization that has happened. I think the last 1 year, what we've also observed is more from the artisan, which is more I'm that's my the core area where we work is that a lot of the younger generations have come back and taken over from their parents and saying, okay, we will take it forward. I think there is a significant opportunity for us to be economically independent instead of working somewhere at some, and they want to come back.
The generation of the young generation have had the benefit of their parents who have been the ones who've been earning, because I think money and financial security was the main trip for people before this. And this generation, I think, is fortunate to have parents who have made them financially stable. And I think that's when also it allows people the freedom to be able to pursue their dreams.
Yeah, I think that might be a an ideal thing for people like us. And when I look at it from the artisan's point of view, it's still there is an economic disparity that
of
we
course,
see.
yes.
So when the younger generation came back, it was more from an economic sense for them as well.
Yeah, I was talking about people who, for someone like you or your other partner who's pursued.
It's just privilege.
Today, this is fantastic. No, it's not just privilege. I also think that it's fantastic, that kids have got the opportunity to do what they love. I don't think my generation people had that.
Yes.
Because my father struggled to ensure that, a house is built. Housing, having your own house was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And it required courage to leave your, your family, a joint family, and start a secular family of your own, because you do not, want to be. For example, for me, I went into a school where a lot of my cousins did not go to the kind of school I went into.
Yeah.
Because my mother wanted me to become more, proficient with English so that I could speak English better than her. And the whole aspiration.
Yeah.
And then I think for me, and it began that I wanted to become better than what my mother and father did. But again, it was always in terms of monetary.
Yeah.
Success was monetary. And I think now, our children will be so fortunate because we've already built that base for them, and they don't. And also, like you said about the pandemic, it's been such an awakening, because for us, a lot of us are also realizing the entire nostalgia, because we tried to copy the Westerners by wearing denims. Of course, I love my denims. We tried to we've given up our clothing.
Yeah.
It's really sad that we've given up the kind of clothing that Indians wear. We've tried to ape everything that is Western. And it is so unfortunate, because for me, my memories go back to the Kasha, which is so intrinsically Bengal also. So, when I go back and I look back at my grandmother, and when I was going through your website, I saw the stone, utensils that you have. What do you call that, you said?
The soapstone one, right?
The soapstone one, yes.
Kalchetti, yeah.
Kalchetti. So my grandmother, my Thakurma, which is my father's mother, who's also, she was widow, and she ate her food on that plate.
Okay.
Yeah, and the entire home had kasha plates.
Yeah.
And we, in Bengal also, I mean, we're so, we're just constantly bombarded with art, I think, all around us. We make sweets. We make something called the Shandesh.
Yeah.
And, with the same soapstone, they have the mold.
Yeah.
And the mold of the Shandesh.
Okay. Yeah.
And all of this, like, because we were talking about food and all, during weddings, I remember my uncle's wedding. I remember this so clearly. All the sweets were made at home. Nobody went to a shop to buy. Because it's so Bengali to make sweets also.
I think if you look at it in most of the communities, it was just being self-reliant.
Absolutely.
And I think we have outsourced a lot of it nowadays for our own convenience. And I think that's the way the world has become. And we have
you
to just
can't blame them also, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's about the aspirations, and that aspirational part is there.
Yeah.
And I remember people using ash to clean their utensils.
Yes. Yeah.
The coal that's like burnt out, that ash is
used for the cleaning. So if you look at it, that entire ecosystem is so sustainable.
We said it together.
Yeah. So because it's so sustainable. If you look, every aspect of it is used for something,
some form or the other.
So it's never wasted.
Yes.
The concept of wastage was so low. And that's something that it's still kind of, when I try to document some of this information,
you have to come to my parents' house to see how they are the most sustainable people. I realize that now.
Yes.
Her saris, my mother, it used to be very embarrassing for me, because the light colored saris that she had, she used to make curtains out of that, because she used to sew at home. And when I moved from Shillong, where I grew up, where, the monetary success wasn't so glaring, because it's a small little hill station, and I kind of did not even know whether I was rich or poor or, middle class. I think I came from a very, very, I won't call it frugal, but yes, frugal home, where both my parents really struggled to make things better, and, And then when I moved into Delhi, like suddenly they made me aware, okay, this is a sari. But now I realized that their lives were so sustainable.
And I think that's something that, I grew up actually in a small village. The initial, till up to 10, 11 years of my life, I was...
Till 13 in Shillong.
Okay. So in a small village, and, and I just think back in terms of what all we used to do. I was just, during the pandemic, I do the washing of dishes every day.
Okay, the men should need to hear this. Please say that again. You wash the dishes every day. Fantastic.
So
I already like you.
I'm in charge of washing the dishes and doing the jadu pocha at home.
Lovely.
So that's something that it's a nice, enjoyable activity for me. And so when I used to wash the dishes, and I was just looking at the tap water running, and and we are just washing vessels, and I was just trying to calculate how much of water do we waste while washing a full basin of dishes. And then suddenly at some point of time, my memories triggered to what my mother or the maid at home in the village would do when she's washing the dishes. And then I started doing it. So I would just fill a small vessel, I'll wash it, a big one, the biggest of the vessels, I'll wash it first and fill it up with water. And we will just use that water in that's how she would do. There's no running water in the village. So they would just have a bucket with water, and that water is just used to wash every vessel. And I was just trying to see how much of water we are saving every day. And it just triggered back saying, now we are so used to the convenience of a flowing tap. And then now you have like water diffusers to reduce the amount of water. Simple, just take...
So when you talk about reduction of water, I have to say this to you, because, in a place like Shillong, I have to interrupt. In a place like Shillong, water is a scarcity. You do not get water that easily because it's a hill station, right? And when you open the tap, the water just gushes out like in speed. And so not to waste water, my mother, I remember so clearly that she used to take the old Bengali cotton sari and she tied it into the tap like this little pipe so that the water would just... She kept it very less, and there was less water that was being wasted.
Yeah.
So all these things that they did, this is amazing,
Yeah, and every aspect of it, like, use of banana leaves for eating.
Oh, yes, I love that.
Yeah, so it's just natural. You eat it and then feed it to the cows or the animals, they eat it. So it was just a very, and even in terms of the number of vessels. So that's where, I'm doing a little bit of research right now, both me and Meera, in terms of we are trying to see how many actually vessels do you need at home for a functioning home. So we have more than what we need actually in terms of number of vessels, in terms of how you use it, how you cook, what you use. And if you do, just introspect and look at your own kitchen, you will see that um, it's the same 80-20 rule. 80% of the vessels are not used that frequently. You might be using 20% of the vessels. And I think that's always a good point to look at in terms of how do you make your own home sustainable, because you're just using up resources. There's someone else who could use that resource. And when we were looking at these traditional vessels, there was one thing that we observed. It's not something that you buy and you use for a few years and throw it. You pass it on from one generation to another.
The same way I said about kasha.
Yes.
The kasha plate has been passed on to me from my grandmother.
Yes. So that's a beauty of it. So you are not overutilizing these resources, and these are scarce. Like you're looking at kasha, there's metals involved which you need to extract from the earth. So you are being a lot more sustainable in terms of how you use them, where you pass it on from one generation to another. So you are minimizing another person's consumption as well by doing it. So in a way, that whole aspect of sustainability woved into our business because of how these products were used by our grandparents. So a lot of lessons and learning that we took were from different grandmothers and even the artisans, because we when we was doing the documentation, we realized that not just our grandmothers, the artisans themselves had so much of knowledge that in terms of every aspect of that product. So though they are the masters of making it, and that community also uses it extensively, they know every aspect of that particular product and how to use it sustainably as well. So that's something also we were like, to us, the guru or the maximum knowledge that we can gather is from these artisans and then the grandmothers, I think. And we also inform our customers, whatever you could document, share it with us, because it's important for not just you having that information, but let's try to pass it on to others, because at some point of time someone might find it useful. It's not like all knowledge is we need to vet and verify it, but some knowledge is always good. But our job is to structure and keep it in a way that it's accessible to people, because there's so much of noise that is there because of social media, of so much of different things that keep coming up. We need to cut the noise as well, and so that when people see, okay, these are properly documented information that you can trust, and you can also take it for your own use. That's the part. That's the toughest part actually, and that's the toughest part in this entire venture.
So what are the kind of products that you currently have that's available? I had seen that you have cast iron.
Yes.
You have the soapstone products. You have kasha.
Yeah.
And brass.
Yes.
And
so we have a few other stuff which is around the kitchen aspect is around we have this Manipur black pottery.
Oh, I love Manipur.
The long pea which we get all the way from the northeast.
Yes.
It's one of the most exquisite cookware that I've
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous ones. That's another one. We have, like I said, the tin vessels, which basically it's a very very difficult. It's not something that people are aware of, but brass, you put the kalai inside, right? It's just that metal. They make the vessels out of the metal. You can't mold it or anything. It has to be beaten and made, the entire vessel. So that's something that's very unique to certain communities within Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Kerala. And then we have a lot of neem wood accessories that we get, but that's something that we get it all the way from West Bengal actually. And we have...
What sort of accessories do you have?
So these are all the ladles and the chopping boards. These are made of neem wood.
Okay.
And that cluster has been in existence for many generations. That is the West Medinipur region. So that's something related to kitchen aspect of it, brass, bronze. These are the traditional metals and the earthenware, clay pots, and we have those as well. Each one is made by a cluster. So each part of it, so the soapstone is made in India only by a cluster located near Salem region. That's the only place you get the stone, and they are the only people who make it. The other region that I've noticed is in Brazil, I believe. So this is the only cluster in India who makes it. So we work with them. So the clay, we actually source it from a cluster that is located in the Kaveri Delta region, where we have researched of the purity of the clay, and so we work with them. So like the way Manipur black pottery comes from Northeast, the Kansa comes from Orissa. We have a few clusters now in Gujarat and Punjab who provide us with both Kansa as well as brass.
Okay.
Brass
The
items.
lassi in the Kasa glass.
Yes. So
Yeah.
those comes from Orissa. The Kansa predominantly comes from Orissa and a little bit from Gujarat. But the rest, they're all different types of clusters. So the way they make it is different. So their approach
The designs will be
the
different
designs
on
will be
it,
different.
yes.
So those see, that's what we wanted to capture. It's not just about getting Kasa and who provides the cheapest. We were like, when we were having the discussions, like Orissa, they're pretty expensive, even for the making part of it. When you go to Gujarat, it is a little cheaper, but the thing is they're unique. So we told them, I don't want the regular stuff that you do for, I want those things that synthesizes the essence of Gujarat and Rajasthan, and those kind of designs you give us, because that's what we want to preserve. I don't want to straitjacket these artisans to making these regular, just run of the mill stuff, which they give it to other shops or something like that. Because at the end of the day,
It has to have a story.
It has to have a story, and also that is unique to that region.
Correct.
So which is what we really want to focus on. So we have this, and we also have Madhur mats from West Bengal. So some of the home furnishing. So our philosophy is to look at every aspects of the home and see what we can bring from a traditional point of view back into our homes, and which are unique, which have some utility value also. Now we are slowly getting into the home decor space. We are working with Meenakari craftsmen on copper enamel stuff, so which we recently launched in our website. We slowly want to expand those kind of unique craft as well. But the idea is to look at every aspect of the home. So we started with kitchen. We want to remove the plastics and the non-sticks from the home.
That won't be possible, but yeah.
That is it's all idealistic
Yeah,
to say
it is
that
an
that's what we want to
idealistic thing,
do.
because plastic is there in everything.
Yeah, but there are a few customers who've come back to us, and they've really explored this journey of removing plastics, and some of them have been successful, and it's just a mind shift part of it. And I think some of them have done. I have not done it yet.
Such a huge shark out there that will swallow up.
Yeah. It's difficult, but even I'm in the journey. I'm like slowly trying to get a few things are still there at home, which I'm like eyeing how to remove this and what I can bring it in instead of that. But plastic is one critical aspect. So we started with the kitchen. Now we are slowly getting into the dining space, the living space. And see what aspect of this we can bring back from a traditional knowledge perspective, and see how you can make it a lot more engaging. So we were looking at those curtains that are made of these fibers that they generally put in the these water coolers. Those coir. It's not coir actually. It's called vetiver. It's very nice fragrance that comes.
Yeah.
And we have observed.
I think, in the early days when people couldn't buy the air conditioner, they used to have the coolers, and they had these that material behind it. And, then suddenly there was this new wave, I remember in Delhi, that you can have different fragrance to it. You can have khas, you can have rose. So imagine you have this whole rose smelling water the entire, wind blowing into the night.
Is the name for this vetiver, but the vetiver has a natural fragrance, and it is also a natural air purifier. So it reduces it kind of absorbs a lot of the suspended particles. So we even put it in water, drinking water, to actually like alum. So we also use it to remove any dissolved solids, and also in terms of gives a nice fragrance to water. And now, that actually we've observed that it reduces the room temperature by at least 2-3 degrees. You just sprinkle some water, and you don't have to just put it on the windows, these curtains, like this kind of a big one. You can have a big curtain that, sprinkle some water during summer. It actually brings down the temperatures significantly. And, that we were like, why actually need an AC? And in Bangalore, you don't need an AC as such, except for this 1 month when it becomes really hot now.
Yes.
But we were just looking at these kind of solutions, but still a lot of work to do, because
identifying the craftsmen who do it. It's a journey by itself. Each problem we take, and then in search and bringing the solution out, it takes a lot of time.
I'm sure you're going to be very, very successful. I'm wishing you lots of luck. It's an honor to have you with me today.
Thank you.
And this goes really down into my heart because it's something that I think after so many years, I'm beginning to recognize how it's played such a huge part in my heart and how it has not left me. The memory, like when I shut my eyes, I don't even need to shut my eyes. Actually, I can keep my eyes open and see my grandmother eating in that plate. And, all the grandchildren sitting around her, waiting for her to give us one, a rice
ball of rice.
A ball of rice with, food that she ate, of course, completely sattvic food, because Bengali widow in the earlier days were not allowed to eat anything that is non-vegetarian or, garlic, onion and all of that. So that's again another subject that I need to delve on would be food.
Yeah.
And you're making me go back into the kasha plate and into all the stuff. So thank you so much, Archish. Wish you lots and lots of luck with your endeavor. And thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me here once again.
Thank you. To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course, all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are Moody Mo Awaaz Podcast, where Hatke is hot.